effective communication and how does it help you thrive in your relationship? As couples, we communicate for many different reasons. It may be just to talk or to manage details of everyday life. Couples talk as a way to share ideas, ambitions, and dreams. Oftentimes, couples communicate with the intent to resolve something in the relationship or could be a conflict at hand that needed to be addressed. Communication on all levels is essential for couples to thrive. Unfortunately, most couples do not know how to manage this, especially when it comes to conflict, and it can lead to disharmony in the relationship. Don't get me wrong, but all couples will experience conflict from time to time. How conflict is handled, though, is a key ingredient in the success of the marriage of the relationship or the relationship. Okay, so a few common complaints in my sessions of, whether it's married or unmarried couples include things like they don't feel that their partner is listening to them and they don't communicate well. And most of the time, they don't feel like they're being heard. In most cases, this relationship will eventually have issues that need to be discussed, whether big or small. Learning how to listen well and communicate well involves learning some basic communication skills. That is where effective communication skills can help couples navigate through difficult topics that may be hard to discuss, or shall I say, uh, to discuss something about the elephant in the room. Just like the saying goes, it takes two to tango, it takes two to communicate well. Learning to talk and really listen to each other is the first step toward good communication, and that will lead to effective conflict management. All right. So, what is perpetual issues? When I see couples who are struggling in communication, I usually hear them going through issues that circle around the same problem over and over again. These are what we call perpetual issues. This is present in all relationships, not just unhappy relationships, but even the healthy ones. You could name something about your partner that drives you crazy or that bothers you. This is what couples therapy experts John and Julie Gottman call a perpetual problem. Interestingly, Gottman's research has shown that 69% of problems couples face are perpetual problems. Perpetual problems are typically those related to fundamental differences between partners as a result of stable factors such as personality, past experiences, and familiar relationships. These factors are what make each of us unique. These unique factors shape how we view the world and influence our perspectives on our partners. These factors are strongly rooted in who we are, and I would say that it is hard to change. Having different perspective can lead to having different opinions about important matters in our relationship. This does not mean that the relationship is not good for you. And people have the tendency to think that if they have problems like this, then maybe they shouldn't be together, which is absolutely untrue. Okay, so Gottman also talk about the predictor of divorce and can happen if conflict is not managed properly over time. And you are not taking action to correct, when you are not taking steps or actions to correct these, then this will lead to basic mistrust and turning away from each other that slowly lead you to the destructive patterns in your relationship. Okay, this is where I will introduce the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Okay, how well a couple communicate does not predict how a particular discussion will go, but also set the tone for the entire relationship. When couples speak respectfully to each other, they increase understanding, trust, and positive connection. When couples speak to each other in a negative way, there's a lot of frustration, conflict, and distance that follows. Dr. Gottman research shows that not all negative interactions are equally corrosive. He found that certain types of negativity, if allowed to run rampant, are in fact so lethal that they can lead to relationship dissolution. He named these negative ways of interacting the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Okay, it is important to note that no one or no couple is perfect. Even happy couples sometimes find that the Four Horsemen slip into their relationship from time to time. The difference is that happy couples recognize the Four Horsemen and they do their best to avoid them. The next slides will describe each of the Four Horsemen and the alternate positive ways of interacting called the antidotes. All right, so the Four Horsemen are behaviors that escalate conflict and damage a relationship. So over time, these harmful behaviors may become a normal part of communication between partners. Okay, so the Four Horsemen consists of number one, criticism, number two, defensiveness, number three, contempt, and number four is stonewalling. All right, so moving on is the antidotes. The antidotes are, of each of these horsemen are skills that replace the four horsemen. These skills help resolve conflict and encourage positive feelings between partners. Number one, you could use gentle startup. Number two, take responsibility. Number three, share fondness. And admiration, and number four, self-soothing. So the next slides will further illustrate how you can use these antidotes for effective communication. Okay, so for horseman number one, which is criticism. Criticism involves bringing up an issue in a way that focuses on your partner's character or personality flaws rather than on what you would like them to do differently. So criticism implies there is something wrong with your partner, that he or she is the problem. These may include blame, name calling, general, character assassination, dealing with problems through harsh blaming or hurtful expression of judgment or disapproval. Remember, criticism is an attack on your partner. The focus is on perceived personal flaws rather than changeable behaviors, often met with defensiveness. So, for example, if you say, hey, this kitchen is in a mess, you're such a slob and so lazy. So, this is criticism. The antidote to criticism is using gentle startup to ask your partner to change their behavior in some specific way, dealing with problem in a calm, gentle way. Remember, the focus is on the problem and not the person. So number one, you can begin statements with I instead of you to avoid blame. State how you feel. Example, I feel upset. Number two, about what? Describe the situation and not your partner. So example, I feel upset that the dirty dishes are left out on the counter. Number three, I need. So let your partner know what you need versus what you don't want. If you could wave a magic wand and get what you need, what would the things be like? Instead of hoping your partner will guess what you need or read your mind, tell them or her specifically what you would like to be changed, right? So for example, a statement of what you need would include, I feel that the dirty dishes are left out on the I feel upset that I feel upset that the dirty dishes are left out on the counter. I would appreciate if you would help me tidy the kitchen each night before going to bed. Okay, doesn't that sound much more appealing than using a you statement? So be polite when making requests by adding phrases such as please and I would appreciate if if you could do something for me, right? Okay, so give appreciation at the end of it. Notice what your partner is doing right and tell them, if your partner has done what you wanted in the past, state that you appreciate it and ask he or her if they would be willing to do it again. This is how Antidote will sound. It felt so great to wake up to a clean kitchen last Friday. And I would really appreciate if you would please tidy up the kitchen each night before you go into bed. Notice how that sounds more subtle and more appealing. Another common example will be your partner complains that you spend too much time on the phone. Example of criticism in this case would be, you are always looking at your phone during dinner and never pay attention to me. You're so rude. So the antidote for that would be using a gentle startup. I feel hurt and excluded when you are looking at your phone during dinner. I would appreciate it if you would please put your phone away and spend some time talking to me. I really look forward to talking and connecting with you when we eat together. So notice how it sounds a little bit more gentler and more approachable when you see something in a nice connection to the emotions itself. So all right, so the next one would be the horseman number 2, which is defensiveness. This is an attempt to protect yourself, to defend your innocence, to ward off any perceived attack. Many people become defensive when they are criticized. Research shows that defensiveness rarely has a desired effect on improving the situation. All right. This is because defensiveness is really a way of blaming your partner. You're saying, in effect, the problem isn't me, it's you. Defensiveness just escalates the conflict, which is why in most cases, it is so destructive. In essence, you are deflecting responsibility for your own mistakes and behaviors, or refusing to accept feedback, and you shift the blame onto your partner. So defensiveness may sound like, it isn't my fault I yelled. You were late, not me. See how that sounds? So the antidote to this defensiveness is to take some responsibility and ownership to what has happened. So even the small part of the problem, taking some ownership to that. By doing this, you can quickly reduce tension and prevent conflict from escalating. This helps your partner feel heard and understood. Own up to your behavior without blaming others. Avoid taking feedback personally. Use feedback as an opportunity to improve. Show remorse and apologize. So instead of yelling and blaming, the antidote will sound like this: I shouldn't have raised my voice. I'm sorry. Notice how that could, you know, possibly de-escalate the situation at hand. So the next horseman would be contempt. To be contemptuous is to put your partner down or to speak with hostility toward your partner. It happens when you feel or act superior than him or her. It's putting oneself on a higher plane, looking down from a position of authority with an attitude of, I'm better, smarter, neater, cleaner, or more punctual than you. So contempt stems from a negative habit of mind in which you scan the environment looking for your partner's mistakes or flaws rather than what you can appreciate about him or her. Sarcasm and cynicism are types of contempt, and so is name calling, eye rolling, sneering, mockery, and hostile humor, or just being sarcastic. Okay, so in whatever form, contempt is the most damaging of the four horsemen and is poisonous to your relationship. It is virtually impossible to resolve a problem when your partner is getting the message that you are disgusted with him or her. Inevitably, contempt leads to more conflict. So the antidote to contempt is to share fondness and admiration by fostering a healthy relationship by regularly, showing each other respect and appreciation. So it's good to show affection, recognize your partner's strength, give compliments. Underneath contempt is a desire, a need, or want. Relationships become contemptuous when these needs are not met over time. The antidote to contempt is to describe your feelings and the needs by using statements. For example, use the steps for gentle startup. From the first part of the Four Horsemen, in the criticism section, I feel about what I need. So building a culture of appreciation is the all-encompassing antidote to contempt. When you feel valued and appreciated, you're able to access positive feelings for your partners and are less likely to act contemptuously when you have a difference of opinion. So building a culture of appreciation includes expressing appreciation. I appreciate your warm welcoming hugs when I come home from work each day. Expressing thanks. Thank you for all that you do for our kids. They're really lucky to have you as their mother. Number three is expressing fondness and admiration. I'm so proud to have you as my partner. Last night at the dinner party, your enthusiasm was contagious. So, example of contempt: your partner criticizes that you are spending out of control. So a contempt message that you would say to your partner usually will sound like something like this: there you go again, your reckless, irresponsible spending once again maxed out our credit card limit. You're out of control. All you think about is yourself. I made so many sacrifices for this family. I saved all this money this month. Why couldn't you? What have you contributed to this household? I know this sounds kind of familiar in some households, but the antidote will be: I feel frustrated about our finances and that the amount we spend versus how much we save each month. I would like to have an agreement with you about a monthly budget and how much we can save each month. So notice how this sounds more constructive in that manner without, showing that anger and disgust and hostility towards your partner. So this is what contempt is all about, and it's important to share fondness and admiration towards your partner. Okay, so the last one would be horseman number 4, which is stonewalling. This occurs when you withdraw from the interaction while staying physically present. Essentially, this means not giving cues that you're listening or paying attention to the situation. For instance, by avoiding eye contact and crossing your arms, or just looking away while your partner is talking to you. The more you turn away, gives cues to the speaker that you're not paying attention. When your partner is talking to you or attacking you, you feel like your heart rate is climbing and you're afraid to say anything for fear of making things worse. However, by withdrawing and turning away from your partner, you perpetuate a negative spiral in your relationship and the issues remains unsolved. In addition, research shows that stonewalling elevates your heart rate and releases stress hormone like cortisol and adrenaline. When this happens, it is nearly impossible to listen, think creatively, and solve the problem constructively. So the antidote to stonewalling is to take self-soothing breaks for at least 20 minutes and then re-engage with your partner when you feel calmer and are able to constructively express your views. Example of stonewalling is, imagine coming home from work and being met with a barrage of critical statements and demands from your partner, such as, you are late again, you forgot to bring groceries, you think of yourself all the time and never think about your kids. This is never going to end. I don't need this. If I tell her what I think, she'll really explode. It's not worth it. If I say anything, it will make it worse. Just keep your mouth shut. So these will be some of the things that you think about when you're being attacked in that situation. So an antidote is to self-soothe. You recognize that you can't think clearly and are getting stressed at that moment. So you need to calm yourself down. You tell your partner that you need a break and will be back in half an hour. I know this may sound a little bit hard when your partner is attacking you, but it is important to let them know that you cannot be available at that point of time if they're attacking you. Okay, so taking a break or taking time out can avoid negative thoughts and replying in a negative manner. So what you could do is to do something that is um, not stress inducing, maybe taking a walk or playing your favorite music and returning to your partner's concern after you have calmed down your thoughts. This time your partner would also be careful to bring up the topic in a gentle way, and you can engage in a constructive discussion. Okay, so it is interesting that we don't realize in most cases how we respond matters. It can escalate or de-escalate conflicts. Communication with one another is a powerful tool. It can nurture feelings of love, admiration, and respect. It can also have a negative impact by creating feelings of hurt, anger, and resentment. So, learning effective ways to communicate with your partner won't help you avoid conflict in your relationship only, but it would help you prevent conflict from damaging your relationship. The ground rules in the following slides are meant to give you tools to help you communicate with one another. Let's get started with the tools that you'll need to get your message across. So, strategies to manage conflict and strengthening connection. So, as the speaker in the house, these are ground rules for communicating your message. Okay, so the first one would be to pick the right time. While there is no perfect time to raise a difficult issue, sometimes are more appropriate than others. Okay, so use care in determining what those times may be. Try to pick a time when your partner or your spouse are free from distractions. This time should be when both of you uh, can approach it in a more positive manner, where you can give your full attention to the situation. For example, this time is likely not favorable when it's your favorite TV show, when it's a favorite TV show that you both are planning to watch. So it's not a good time to talk about issues at that point of time. So, or maybe upon immediately coming back home from work, or during a scheduled activity, as a speaker you can initiate the discussion by gauging what is the most appropriate time maybe, or simply by asking your partner when is a good time to discuss an important issue. Okay, so number two, how you start is how you'll finish. The way in which the speaker raises an issue is often a big predictor of how the discussion will go. If you begin the conversation in a harsh way by attacking or blaming your partner, you're likely to have an angry discussion or a negative discussion. It is important to avoid creating an environment where the listener feels they need to defend themselves rather than simply discuss the issue at hand. In these cases, your message is not being heard because the listener is too busy defending themselves. So softening the way you begin the conversation with a calm, positive approach will increase the likelihood of your communication will be viewed as non-threatening. A non-threatening or safe communication environment will make the discussion seem more worth participating in for the listener. Think of it as a soft beginning where your words and the tone are free of criticism or attack. Here are some examples of harsh and soft beginnings. So a harsh beginning would be something like, you didn't put the gas in the car and I was late for work this morning again. So a soft beginning would be, I appreciate it if you put gas in my car, but when you can't do so, please let me know in advance so I can make time to stop before work. Okay, so you see the difference in the soft and harsh beginning. So the third one would be speak for yourself. Sticking to talking about how you, the speaker, feel matters. Also describe the issue at hand for you rather than stating what you may assume. Think or observe to be the problem with your partner. Use the words I and me to describe things from your point of view. As discussed in the Four Horsemen under the criticism part, beginning a conversation with you statement can feel like an attack or attempt to blame the listener. So let's use the issue of the housework again as an example, okay? So the I statement, I get frustrated when I come home from work and the kitchen is messy. This statement conveys a feeling of frustration about a messy house. So you statement will sound like you don't ever clean up after yourself. What have you been doing all day? This statement assigns blame on the listener for the messy house and attacks the listener by implying that they are lazy. Okay, so number 4, be short to the point. Try to tackle one issue at a time. Keep your points specific to issues, observations, or feelings, and raise only things that is happening currently. Do not include things that happens in the past. And do not include negative comments that attack your partner. For example, the following statement is example of a personal attack. You were such a jerk last night to just leave like that. So a more positive alternative to this statement would be, my feelings were hurt last night when you leave. It describes specific feelings as a result of an event. Explain your feelings and concern, simply avoiding the temptation to use long or drawn out description of things. So getting to the point gives the listener a manageable amount of information. It also provides them with a greater chance to show that they understand your point. Being brief keeps the listener engaged in the discussion and makes them less likely to tune out. So number 5, it is not safe to assume. Okay, this is the most important part of it all. You might think that because the person knows you, they should know what you are thinking or feeling. Making assumptions is dangerous in any type of communication. It is up to you to tell the listener what you feel or how you observe a situation. What may be obvious to you may not be obvious to your partner or your listener. Communicate in specific using examples of situations if necessary. Give your listener a frame of reference for what you describe. Don't forget to begin the discussion gently and speak for yourself using I statements as described above in rule number 2 and number 3. Okay, so while keeping the issues to the point and as simple as possible. Okay, so Number 6 is stop, pause, listen. Okay, so after you have done your best to follow the speaker's rules to get your message across, you must be sure to let the listener, paraphrase or summarize what you have said. So the only way to know that your listener accurately received your message is to pause and give the listener a chance to respond back to you. This response should not include their opinion about what you've said. They should simply restate in their own words what you just shared. So it's not uncommon to learn that what we think we said um, was actually heard in much differently by the listener. So having the listener repeat what you just shared gives you a chance to know whether your message was understood by them. You can add corrections or clarifications if the listener describes something differently than what you are intended to communicate. And lastly is move on. Okay, guys. So move on. Once you are sure your message was understood, you can choose your next option. If you're communicating a conflict, use these rules to develop a solution based on a common ground or things that you can agree upon to improve the situation. You may be able to resolve an issue by simply discussing it, or you may agree or disagree. So if you identify a conflict that needs to be resolved, schedule a time to discuss it using the above skills. This doesn't necessarily mean you fix your conflict, only that both of you agree on ways that you can live with the conflict. At this point, you might need to repair hurt feelings, ask for forgiveness, or offer forgiveness. Do so in ways that your partner appreciates it. Okay, so take time to do these things, and once you've completed the process, move on. Your conflict discussions will be far more productive when you don't allow the situation to escalate. I can understand that learning any new skills and incorporating these rules may seem silly or unnatural at first. The key is to stick to it and incorporate the techniques into your communication. Even practice these skills when things are going well in your relationship so that you be more prepared when attempting to use these rules during the conflict. Okay, so you may be wondering how you can be sure that these rules work in real situations. Experts in healthy marriage arena have learned after years of research and working with couples to design the basics of the rules. They've used these techniques on literally thousands and thousands of couples in their practice. So also by studying successful communication skills, not just failures, experts are able to translate these things into strategies that people can use in their everyday life. All right, so I hope you have found or at least learned something useful in the webinar today. Before I end this presentation and move on to some question and answer segment, I would also like to, share with you how I'm delighted, together, how I'm delighted to announce that together with my colleague, Miss Anna from Nuffield Wellness, we will be running retreats and workshops for couples. So for those who are interested, you may sign up through our Nuffield Wellness programs, which is coming up. There's one that's coming up, which is called the Secret of Sensuality Retreat, which will be on the 23rd to 24th July. You can sign up through our website just by simply logging on to www.nuffield.wellness and you can see all our list of programs listed on our website. Okay, so I know that we are, close to running out of time. So if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer one or two right now. If not, please feel free to drop me an email and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right. So do we have any question from our, from our participants today? Okay, so okay, so I guess at this point of time we have no questions, but if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to email us and we will get back to you as soon as we can. All right, so with that, on that note, we will end the webinar for today. Thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to see you all in our next webinar.